The sky above the war-torn planet was a strange mix of gold and gray, as if the heavens themselves could not decide whether to shine or weep. Towering mountains of jagged rock stretched toward the clouds, and the ground was littered with the remnants of past battles, broken weapons, scorched earth, and the shattered remains of armor from warriors who had tried and failed. This world, known as Krythos, was not kind to the weak. Here, only the skilled, the clever, and the brave could survive. Among the surviving species, one warrior stood out above all others: Virella, a fearsome alien fighter whose armor gleamed like polished obsidian. She had traveled across planets and fought countless opponents. Her name whispered with awe and fear wherever she went. No warrior had ever bested her, and she wore her victories like a crown. Today, however, something unusual drew her attention. A human had come to Krythos, a species she considered inferior in every way, fragile and weak, and yet the human walked into the battlefield as if he belonged there. Virella's first sight of him made her laugh aloud. His weapon was peculiar, two short sticks connected by a thin chain. She knew immediately what it was. Nunchucks. Primitive, old-fashioned, and useless in real combat. This will be easy, she thought. A child could defeat him. The human didn't seem to notice her laughter. He stood quietly, gripping his weapon with both hands, his stance calm but balanced. His eyes, sharp and intelligent, never left Virella. There was no fear, no hesitation, only a strange, quiet confidence. The crowd of spectators grew larger. Aliens of many species, warriors and traders alike, formed a circle around the clearing where the fight would take place. The chatter was a mix of excitement and disbelief. They all wanted to see how a human could even attempt to challenge Virella the Invincible. Virella flexed her fingers inside her armored gauntlets and took a step forward. The ground beneath her boots cracked slightly with the weight of her armor. Her helmet reflected the sun in sharp flashes, making her appear almost unstoppable. "Do you even know how to fight?" she asked, her voice a harsh whisper that carried to every corner of the circle. The human tilted his head slightly and smiled. "I know enough to win," he said simply. His calm tone, so different from the usual nervous chatter of alien challengers, made Virella pause for just a moment. That moment was all he needed. He began to spin his nunchucks slowly, the motion smooth and controlled. At first, it seemed almost like a casual exercise, but then the air around the chain seemed to hum, catching the sunlight in flashes. Virella frowned. There was something different here, something she had never seen before. Without warning, she lunged forward. Her armor clanged as she moved with incredible speed, striking toward the human with a blow meant to crush him instantly. She expected him to flinch, stumble, or break under the force. Instead, he shifted his weight lightly, twisting out of the way with an agility that defied his size. Virella's first attack failed. She blinked in surprise. No one had ever dodged her strike so easily. Her second strike, faster and angrier, met the same result. The human was not just dodging, he was anticipating, predicting even her fastest moves. A murmur ran through the crowd. Some began to whisper that perhaps this human was more than he seemed. Perhaps he had trained in ways unknown to the aliens of Krythos. Virella's third attack, a spinning strike designed to end any fight in seconds, hit only air. The human spun his nunchucks in a wide arc, the chain whipping with precision and speed. With a fluid motion, he deflected her strike, sending her armored gauntlet flying backward. The sound of metal against metal echoed across the battlefield, startling even the seasoned spectators. Virella's eyes narrowed. She had never encountered an opponent who could turn her own strength against her. "You are stronger than I thought," she said, her voice low, almost a growl. Pride and irritation mingled in her words. No alien had ever admitted weakness before Virella. The human made no reply. Instead, he continued to move, not aggressively, but with a calm, deliberate focus. Each step was calculated. Each swing of the nunchucks was precise. He was not reckless. He did not waste energy. And yet, despite this calmness, Varela could feel the pressure of every strike, the hidden force behind even the simplest movement. Varela adjusted her stance, trying to regain control. She began to use her full strength, each strike more powerful than the last. Her armor glinted as her strikes collided with the human's nunchucks. Sparks flew where metal met chain. Dust rose in small clouds around their feet. The ground shook slightly with each forceful impact, but with every strike, the human adapted. He did not simply block. He guided her movements, redirecting her own energy in ways that left her off balance. For the first time in her long career, Varela felt frustration, a strange, burning sensation she had rarely experienced. She attacked again, faster, harder. Her eyes flashed with determination. She had never lost, and she would not lose to a human. Yet, despite her skill and her armor, she could feel that the fight was slipping away. The crowd gasped as her first dent appeared in her armor, a small crack along her shoulder plate. Varela gritted her teeth. She had underestimated this human. She had mocked his weapon, laughed at him, and assumed victory before the fight even began. Now, she realized her mistake. The human moved with a speed that seemed impossible. His nunchucks were no longer just sticks connected by a chain, they were extensions of his body, flowing seamlessly with his movements. Each strike forced Varela to react in ways she had never practiced. Each block, each dodge, revealed a skill that surpassed her expectations. The alien warrior's pride fought against reality. Every dent in her armor, every misstep, made her blood boil. Yet, even in her fury, she could not ignore the truth. She was being outmatched. Time seemed to slow as the human landed a calculated blow against her gauntlet. The impact reverberated through her arm, making her pause. The nunchucks spun like a blur, then snapped to her side with a sound that echoed like thunder. She stumbled back slightly, her balance shifting. The spectators leaned forward, unable to look away. Some whispered that the human might be the greatest warrior they had ever seen. Others shook their heads in disbelief, but all eyes were fixed on the duel unfolding before them. Varela's breathing was steady, controlled, but her mind raced. She had fought countless opponents, each one believing themselves clever, strong, or fast. Yet none had ever forced her to adapt so quickly. None had made her feel the sting of vulnerability. Her armor, once flawless and gleaming, now bore scratches and dents. Each mark was a silent testament to the human's skill, and with every passing second, Varela realized that the fight would not be easy, and perhaps, for the first time in her life, victory was not guaranteed. The human paused, spinning his nunchucks slowly once more. He looked at Varela, his expression calm, almost serene. "You are strong," he said, his voice steady. "But strength alone does not win the fight." Varela's eyes narrowed behind her visor. He was speaking the truth, yet his calmness irritated her even more. She lunged forward again, faster than before, her attacks a blur. The human met her strike with perfect timing. With a swift movement, he redirected her energy, sending her hurtling forward and forcing her to step back to regain balance. Her armor clanged loudly as she moved, denting further along her chest plate. The crowd erupted in gasps. No one had ever seen Varela, the undefeated warrior, struggle like this. No one had seen her pride challenged so thoroughly, and no one could predict what would happen next. Varela's mind raced. She could feel the weight of her armor, the strain in her muscles, and the sting of reality. This human, this seemingly fragile being, was teaching her a lesson she had never expected to learn. Never underestimate a human. The battle continued, each moment more intense than the last. Varela struck, blocked, and dodged with all her skill. But the human's nunchucks flowed like water. Flexible, yet strong. Precise, yet unpredictable. Every move forced her to react, to adapt, to rethink everything she had believed about combat. And as the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting long shadows across the battlefield, one truth became clear. This fight was not over. But Varela's confidence, once unshakable, was beginning to crumble. She had mocked the human, She had laughed at his weapon. But now, with every dent in her armor and every near miss, she realized that the mocking was a mistake, and the true challenge was only just beginning. The sky above Krythos grew darker as the sun dipped behind jagged mountains, casting long shadows across the battlefield. Dust and small stones swirled around the combatants' feet, as if the planet itself wanted to watch the duel unfold. The air was thick with tension, and every spectator leaned forward, unable to take their eyes off the human, and Varela, the undefeated alien warrior. Varela's breathing was steady but deep. She had fought countless enemies, faced terrifying monsters, and battled entire armies. Yet this human was different. He did not fight with brute force alone. His style was fluid, precise, and completely unexpected. Every swing of his nunchucks forced her to react quickly, to think differently. She took a deep breath and adjusted her stance. Her armor, once flawless, was now scratched and dented in multiple places. Each dent reminded her of the human's skill. For the first time, Varela felt a flicker of doubt. She had never faced an opponent who made her feel vulnerable, and that alone was almost unbearable for her pride. The human, meanwhile, stood calmly, spinning his nunchucks in a steady rhythm. He was not moving aggressively, yet every movement was calculated. Every swing had a purpose. His eyes never left Varela, reading her movements, predicting her attacks. "You are strong," he said, his voice calm and even. "But strength alone cannot win a fight." Varela growled softly, her pride stung. "Do not lecture me, human," she said, her voice low and harsh. She lunged forward, faster than before, aiming a crushing strike toward his side. The human twisted his body, letting the nunchucks block her strike. The chain snapped with a sharp clang, sending sparks into the air. Varela's strike was deflected, and the force of her own attack carried her slightly forward, leaving her momentarily off balance. She recovered quickly, planting her boots firmly on the ground, but the human had already moved. With a fluid spin, he brought his nunchucks into a circular motion, striking the air near Varela's shoulder. The blow did not hit her directly but carried enough force to push her back a step. Another dent appeared on her armor, a jagged mark along her breastplate. The crowd gasped. Whispers ran through the spectators. No one had ever seen Varela, the undefeated warrior, struggle like this. Aliens who had come to watch a quick defeat now realized they were witnessing something extraordinary. Varela's eyes narrowed behind her visor. She had underestimated humans, underestimated this human. Pride and irritation burned inside her as she attacked again, harder and faster. Each swing was meant to overwhelm, to crush him instantly, but the human moved like water, flowing around her strikes. He did not fight aggressively. He used her own strength against her. Each block, each deflection, forced Varela to step back or adjust her stance. Sparks flew where metal met chain, and small rocks kicked up from the ground as their movement struck the earth with force. Varela's claws clicked against her gauntlets as she adjusted her grip. This human style was unlike anything she had encountered. It was unpredictable, yet elegant. Simple, yet incredibly effective. Every attack she threw was met with a calculated response. Every advance she made was countered with a movement that left her off balance. The human did not attack recklessly. He observed, predicted, and reacted. He did not try to overpower Varela with sheer strength. Instead, he used timing, agility, and precision. Every strike from his nunchucks forced her to reconsider her tactics. Every dodge he executed revealed his incredible skill. Varela realized, with growing unease, that the fight was no longer about strength. It was about wits, speed, and adaptability. She had relied on her power and reputation for too long, expecting victory to come easily. Now, every dent in her armor, every failed strike, reminded her that she might be facing a real challenge for the first time in her life. She lunged again, swinging her massive arm in a wide arc. The human stepped aside lightly, spinning his nunchucks to block her strike. The chain snapped against her armor with a loud clang, leaving a jagged scratch along her shoulder. The impact pushed her off balance slightly, but she recovered quickly. Her pride would not allow her to falter. "You are faster than I imagined," Varela admitted, her voice low. She had no intention of conceding, but she had to acknowledge the truth. This human's skill was unlike anything she had faced before. The human responded with a slight nod, spinning his nunchucks with calm precision. "You are strong," he said again, "but strength alone does not decide the outcome." Varela's eyes narrowed. Every word he spoke felt like a challenge to her ego, yet she could not deny their truth. She attacked again, faster, striking with the full force of her body. The impact of her strikes shook the ground beneath them. Rocks and dust rose in clouds, and the air seemed to vibrate with the intensity of their battle. But the human moved with uncanny agility. He twisted, ducked, and dodged with a grace that seemed almost impossible for someone of his size. Each time Varela thought she had found an opening, he anticipated her movement and redirected her own force against her. A loud clang echoed as Varela swung her gauntlet at him again, only for the human to catch her strike with his nunchucks and spin her arm aside. The force of the block sent her backward, and a dent appeared along her chest plate. Her armor, once flawless and intimidating, now bore marks of the battle, a visual reminder of her vulnerability. The spectators were silent, watching in awe. This human, a seemingly ordinary being, was pushing the undefeated Varela to her limits. Aliens who had come expecting a quick victory were now witnessing a fight that tested skill, strategy, and courage in ways they had never seen before. Varela's mind raced. She had faced countless opponents, but none had forced her to adapt so quickly. None had made her reconsider every attack, every move, every assumption about combat. This human was not just skilled, he was clever, calm, and fearless. The human's movements were precise, yet fluid. He did not strike recklessly. He did not attempt to overpower Varela. Instead, he redirected her attacks, used her strength against her, and exploited every small opening with speed and accuracy. Varela struck again, a spinning attack meant to break through his defense. The human twisted, ducked, and swung his nunchucks with perfect timing. The chain snapped against her gauntlet, sending a shock through her arm. She stumbled slightly, but recovered quickly. Another dent appeared on her armor, this time along her shoulder blade. The crowd gasped again. Every dent in Varela's armor was a sign of the human's skill, a proof that strength alone was not enough to win. The whispers among the spectators grew louder. Humans, once considered fragile and weak, were proving to be cunning and capable. Varela's breathing was steady, controlled, but her pride burned. She had mocked the human, laughed at his weapon, and assumed victory would be simple. Now, each strike, each block, each dodge reminded her of her mistake. She attacked again, faster and more aggressively, swinging with all the strength her armored body could muster. The human met her attack with a calm deflection, using the momentum of her strike to guide her off balance. Sparks flew, dust rose, and the ground trembled under the force of their movements. Varela realized, with growing respect and frustration, that the fight was not just a test of strength, it was a battle of minds and reflexes. Every time she tried to overpower him, the human adapted. Every attempt to dominate was met with precise counteraction. The human spun his nunchucks, striking at her gauntlets and shoulders, testing her defense. Each strike left small dents or scratches on her armor, and each impact forced her to step back or adjust her stance. She had never faced an opponent who could endure and counter her strikes so effectively. For the first time in her life, Varela felt uncertainty. Her confidence, once absolute, was shaken. She had underestimated humans, and now she was paying the price. The human's calm focus contrasted with her growing frustration. He did not attack recklessly. He did not show anger or fear. He only reacted with skill, precision, and intelligence. Each movement was deliberate, each strike calculated, and every dodge perfectly timed. Varela lunged one final time, a spinning strike meant to end the fight. The human twisted his body, using his nunchucks to redirect her momentum. The force sent her stumbling backward, and a large dent appeared on her chest armor. For the first time, Virella realized that victory was not guaranteed. The spectators erupted into whispers and murmurs. No one had ever seen Virella struggle like this. No one had seen a human display such skill and calmness under pressure. Virella stood, breathing heavily behind her visor, her pride burning as brightly as her armor had once gleamed. She had mocked the human. She had laughed at his weapon. And now, she understood that mockery was a mistake. The real challenge had only just begun. The human spun his nunchucks one last time, his eyes calm and steady. He was ready, and Virella, for the first time, was not sure if she was. The battlefield was quiet for a moment, but the tension was thick, almost suffocating. Dust from the earlier clashes hung in the air like a fine fog, swirling in the low light of Krythos's dying sun. Virella's armor, once polished and intimidating, now bore scratches, dents, and cracks from the human's relentless skill. Each mark was a small reminder that her pride alone could not guarantee victory. Virella narrowed her eyes behind her visor. She had always believed in the power of strength, in the weight of armor, in the authority of experience. But this human, with nothing but 2 short sticks connected by a chain, had forced her to rethink everything she knew about combat. "You are clever," she admitted, her voice low and harsh. "But cleverness cannot defeat power." The human remained calm. His nunchucks spun lazily in his hands, yet there was an unmistakable intensity in his eyes. "Power alone is never enough," he said simply. "Timing, patience, and strategy matter more than brute strength." Virella's pride flared at his words. She had trained for years, fought countless enemies, and mastered every form of weapon she had ever encountered. Yet here, a human was teaching her that experience and armor were not always the deciding factors. With a roar, Virella charged. This time, she held nothing back. Her strikes were faster, more powerful, and more precise than anything she had attempted before. She intended to end the fight quickly, to reassert her dominance. But the human was ready. He twisted, dodged, and parried with astonishing agility. His movements were fluid, almost like water flowing around rocks. Every strike from Virella met a perfect counter, every attempted advantage nullified. The alien warrior's strikes, once unstoppable, were now guided by the human's skill. The nunchucks spun with incredible speed, clashing against her gauntlets and shoulders, redirecting the force of her attacks. Sparks flew from the impacts, lighting the battlefield in small flashes that reflected off the jagged rocks around them. Virella's breathing was steady, but her mind raced. She had underestimated humans, and now she was paying the price. Each dent in her armor, each near miss, forced her to rethink her strategy. She could no longer rely solely on strength. She had to think, to adapt, to anticipate. The human did not attack recklessly. He did not try to overpower her with force. Instead, he used precision, agility, and intelligence. He waited for openings, exploited weaknesses, and guided Virella's own energy against her. Every strike she delivered became a lesson in patience, timing, and adaptation. Virella swung again, a wide, powerful arc meant to break through his defense. The human twisted at the last moment, letting the chain of his nunchucks meet her strike. The impact sent vibrations through her arm and reverberated along her armor. A large dent appeared on her chest plate, and for the first time, Virella felt a twinge of real concern. The spectators watched in stunned silence. Virella, undefeated and feared across galaxies, was being pushed to her limits. Aliens who had traveled long distances to witness her victories were now witnessing something far more extraordinary. A human, seemingly fragile, outmaneuvering a warrior considered invincible. Virella's mind raced. She realized that victory could not come from strength alone. She had to adapt, to change her approach, to think differently than she ever had before. And yet, her pride burned. She could not simply lose, not now, not to a human. With renewed determination, she shifted her stance. Her movements became unpredictable, combining her raw strength with clever feints and sudden direction changes. She attacked with everything she had, hoping to catch the human off guard. The human anticipated some moves, but not all. One of her strikes landed on the side of his armor, forcing him to step back. But it was not enough to slow him down. He countered immediately, spinning his nunchucks in a precise motion that guided Virella's momentum against herself. Sparks flew as metal met chain, and the alien's balance wavered slightly. Virella gritted her teeth. She had trained her entire life for battles like this, yet the human skill challenged her in ways no one else ever had. She realized that she could no longer think of him as weak. He was not just a fighter, he was a strategist, an adaptable, fearless opponent who could read and predict her moves. The fight grew more intense. Each strike, block, and dodge happened faster than the eye could follow. Dust rose in thick clouds, making the air heavy and hazy. Rocks flew from the ground with each powerful stomp and twist. The sound of metal clashing echoed across the battlefield, a symphony of combat that thrilled and terrified the spectators. Virella attacked again, this time aiming for a rapid series of strikes to overwhelm the human. She spun, struck, and lunged with relentless speed. Yet he anticipated her every move. He blocked one strike, twisted around another, and guided the force of her attacks into harmless directions. Finally, with a swift and precise motion, the human struck back. His nunchucks connected with Virella's shoulder, sending a shock through her armor. The impact forced her to stumble, and her shoulder plate cracked loudly under the pressure. The sound echoed across the battlefield, making even seasoned warriors flinch. For the first time, Virella's mind recognized a simple truth. She was not invincible. She had fought countless opponents, relied on experience, strength, and armor. Yet here was a human, a species she had considered weak and fragile, pushing her to her limits. Pride and respect collided inside her. Her pride refused to yield, but her respect for the human grew with every passing second. He did not fight with arrogance. He did not rely on brute force. He fought with intelligence, patience, and skill, and he was proving that humans, often underestimated, could achieve greatness through determination and ingenuity. Virella's attacks became more calculated. She could no longer rely on raw power alone. She had to anticipate, to think, to adapt in ways she never had before. Every move was a lesson, every strike a test of her mind as much as her body. The human remained calm, his movements fluid and deliberate. He did not attempt to dominate her with aggression. Instead, he guided her strength against herself, using precision and timing to control the flow of the fight. Virella swung again, this time combining a feint with a powerful forward strike. The human dodged the feint and blocked the strike, guiding her momentum sideways. Sparks flew from the impact, and Virella's boots slid slightly on the rocky terrain. Another dent appeared in her armor, this one along her back. The crowd gasped. No one had ever seen Virella in such a position. The human was not just surviving, he was controlling the battle, dictating the pace, and demonstrating skill that surpassed anything the aliens had expected from their supposedly fragile species. Virella's mind raced. She realized that victory could not come from arrogance or strength alone. She had to respect her opponent, understand him, and adapt in ways she had never imagined. Yet her pride burned, pushing her to continue, to fight with everything she had. She lunged again, faster and more unpredictable than before. The human twisted, ducked, and parried with precision. His nunchucks moved like extensions of his body, flowing with her movements, guiding her strength against herself. The sound of metal against metal, the sparks, and the dust created a chaotic symphony. Yet the human remained composed. Virella's breathing grew heavier, her armor now showing multiple cracks and dents. Her strikes, though still powerful, were not enough to overpower him. Each block and counter reminded her that strength alone was not enough, and she began to see the truth in his calm words. Strength alone does not win a fight. Finally, the human made his move. With a swift, controlled spin of his nunchucks, he struck Virella's side, forcing her off balance. She stumbled, her armor clanging loudly as she regained footing. The shoulder plate cracked further, and she realized that continued combat in the same way could leave her vulnerable. Virella's eyes narrowed. She could feel the tide of the battle shifting. This human had not just survived, he had dominated her by using intelligence, skill, and precision. She had underestimated him, mocked his weapon, and now she faced the reality that her pride and armor alone could not carry her to victory. For the first time, Virella experienced a mixture of frustration, respect, and determination. She understood that to continue, she had to adapt fully, to think not just of attack but of strategy, timing, and anticipation. She had been tested like never before, and the outcome of the fight now rested not on her strength alone, but on her ability to learn, adapt, and respect her opponent's skill. The battlefield fell silent for a heartbeat as both warriors paused. Dust swirled around them, sparks still glowing faintly in the dim light. Virella's armor was battered, her pride challenged, and her mind sharp with new understanding. The human stood calmly, nunchucks in motion, waiting for her next move. The turning point had come. The fight was no longer about arrogance or invincibility. It was about skill, adaptation, and respect. And in that moment, Virella realized something profound. Humans, often underestimated, could achieve greatness through courage, intelligence, and determination. The battle was far from over, but the lessons had been learned. Virella had mocked the human, and now she understood that mockery had no place in true combat. The fight would continue, more intense than ever. But one truth was clear. Underestimating a human was a mistake she would never make again. The battlefield of Krythos was a scene of dust, sparks, and battered armor. Virella stood in the center, her armor dented, cracked, and smeared with the marks of combat. The human's nunchucks spun calmly in his hands, their chain reflecting the last rays of the dying sun. For the first time, Virella's pride trembled, not from fear, but from the realization of what she was facing. The silence around them was heavy. The spectators held their breath, waiting for the next move. The duel had already lasted longer than anyone expected. Virella, undefeated across galaxies, had been pushed to her limits, forced to adapt, rethink, and struggle against an opponent she had once dismissed as weak. "You have skill," she admitted, her voice low and rough, echoing behind her cracked helmet. Her words were more than acknowledgement, they were the first step toward respect. "I underestimated you, human. I see now that strength alone is not enough." The human tilted his head slightly, spinning his nunchucks lazily. His calm demeanor never wavered. "It is not weakness or strength that matters," he said. "It is courage, focus, and the will to adapt." Virella's eyes narrowed, and a faint smile appeared beneath her visor. For the first time, she felt a strange mixture of pride and humility. She had trained all her life to be unbeatable. Yet she now realized that even the strongest warrior could learn from a determined opponent. With a roar, she lunged once more, not out of arrogance, but determination. Her movements were faster, sharper, and more unpredictable than before. Each strike was meant to test, not to dominate. The human responded calmly, guiding her momentum against herself with the perfect timing of his nunchucks. Sparks flew, and metal rang against metal with every contact. The battle reached a fevered pitch. Virella struck again and again, each blow more precise and forceful. The human parried, twisted, and redirected her attacks, guiding her strength in ways that left her off balance yet aware of her own limits. Each interaction was a dance of skill, intelligence, and respect, neither fighter willing to yield. Virella's armor now bore multiple cracks, dents, and scratches across her chest, shoulders, and gauntlets. The weight of her experience and reputation had met the agility, precision, and ingenuity of a human. She could feel the fatigue setting in, but her determination burned brighter than ever. She would not falter, not because she feared defeat, but because she respected her opponent's skill and wanted to rise to the challenge. The human remained calm, guiding her strikes with perfect precision. He did not attack aggressively. He did not seek to hurt her. His strikes were controlled, calculated, and deliberate. Every movement forced Varela to adapt, to think, to predict her own actions, and adjust in real time. Varela swung a wide, spinning strike, hoping to catch him off guard. The human anticipated her move, twisting at the last second and letting the chain of his nunchucks meet her strike. The force sent a shock through her gauntlet and armor, and she stumbled backward. A loud clang echoed across the battlefield as a section of her shoulder plate cracked further. The spectators gasped. They had witnessed a great warrior humbled, challenged, and outmaneuvered by a human, a species often underestimated. Yet none could deny that the battle had become a display not of brute strength, but of courage, skill, and ingenuity. Varela steadied herself, breathing heavily. Her eyes met the human's, and she saw not arrogance, but calm determination. She realized that she had been tested like never before. This human had not just defended himself, he had controlled the battle through intelligence and skill. "You have earned my respect," she said finally, her voice steady but filled with emotion. "Not many can face me and remain unbroken. You have proven that humans can achieve greatness beyond what I imagined." The human nodded, spinning his nunchucks once more before bringing them to rest at his side. He did not celebrate. He did not gloat. He only stood calmly, confident in his skill and the knowledge that the fight had been a test of both warriors. Varela took a deep breath and lowered her stance. Her pride still burned, but it had transformed into respect. She had mocked him, assumed victory, and yet she had learned a powerful lesson. Strength without understanding is not enough. The crowd erupted into applause and cheers. Aliens of all species, some skeptical at first, now recognized the skill, courage, and ingenuity of a human. They had witnessed a display of true HFY, the human spirit rising above expectations, thriving against odds, and earning respect through intelligence and determination. Varela stepped forward slowly, her gauntleted hand extended. "I yield," she said simply. "You have bested me not through brute force, but through skill and heart. I am honored to have faced you." The human smiled, accepting her gesture. "I did not seek to defeat you for glory," he said. "I fought to prove that determination, courage, and focus can overcome even the greatest obstacles. You have taught me as much as I have taught you." For a moment, the battlefield was silent, except for the faint rustling of dust and the echoes of past strikes. Varela's heavy armor clanged softly as she lowered her visor, a gesture of respect rarely seen among her kind. The human's calm presence contrasted with the destruction around them, a symbol of patience, skill, and resolve. The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky with deep reds and purples. The dust settled, leaving only the marks of battle and the two warriors standing amidst the rocky terrain. Varela's armor was battered, her pride humbled, yet her spirit was stronger than ever. She had faced defeat and learned from it, gaining a new perspective on strength, skill, and respect. The human took a slow, measured step back. "Remember this," he said softly, his voice carrying across the battlefield. "Strength is important, but it is patience, courage, and intelligence that define true power." Varela nodded, her eyes reflecting a mixture of awe and gratitude. "I will not forget," she replied. "Humans are stronger than I ever imagined, not just in body, but in mind and spirit." The spectators slowly began to disperse, murmuring in excitement and awe. Stories of the duel would spread across Krythos and beyond, a tale of a human's courage, ingenuity, and skill challenging an undefeated alien warrior. They had seen the HFY spirit in action. The ability of humans to rise above expectations, to adapt, to innovate, and to triumph through intelligence and determination rather than sheer force. Varela remained where she stood, watching the human leave the battlefield. She felt a strange sense of peace. For the first time, she realized that respect and understanding were as important as victory. She had been humbled, but through that humility, she had grown stronger both as a warrior and as a being capable of learning from others. The human glanced back once, a calm smile on his face, before walking toward the horizon. His nunchucks rested easily in his hands, a reminder that even the simplest weapons could be powerful when wielded with skill, intelligence, and courage. Virella watched him go, a quiet sense of admiration filling her chest. She had mocked him at first, laughed at his weapon, and assumed victory would be effortless. Yet, in the end, she had learned the greatest lesson of all. Never underestimate anyone, for strength comes in many forms, and the human spirit could be more formidable than armor, experience, or brute force. The battlefield was quiet now, the sun finally dipping below the mountains. Virella's armor, battered but still functional, gleamed faintly in the twilight. She touched the dents and scratches, remembering each strike, each dodge, each moment where the human had tested her skill. And in that reflection, she found respect not just for the human, but for the power of ingenuity, courage, and determination that defined the human spirit. The duel had ended, but the lesson remained. Strength alone was not enough. Skill, intelligence, courage, and respect were what truly mattered. And humans, often underestimated and overlooked, had shown that they could rise above expectations, challenge the greatest warriors, and earn respect through their spirit. Virella turned away from the battlefield, her steps steady, her mind clear. She had been humbled, tested, and inspired, and she knew one thing for certain. Humans were a species to be respected, for they carried within them the strength, not just of body, but of mind and heart. As night fell on Krythos, the story of the duel spread quietly among the spectators. Whispers turned into tales, and tales into legends. A human, with nothing but skill, courage, and determination, had challenged the undefeated Virella, and had emerged not only unbroken, but victorious in the most important way. He had earned the respect of the greatest warrior on the planet, and in that victory, the HFY spirit shone brighter than ever, a reminder that humans, though seemingly fragile, could rise above every expectation, innovate in the face of danger, and triumph through intelligence, courage, and heart. The battlefield was empty now, save for Virella and the marks of combat. But the legacy of the fight would remain forever, a testament to the power of the human spirit, the value of respect, and the lesson that true strength lies not in armor or brute force, but in courage, ingenuity, and determination. And so, the story ended not with destruction, but with understanding, respect, and a newfound recognition of what humans could achieve when they faced a challenge head-on.